The city of San Diego embraces an ambitious new energy plan, what the change means for residents, and how the city will achieve zero carbon electricity.
They can have a vantage point from above up to 400 feet, and they can look down and see things that we would never see.
Chula Vista police get an assist from drones. See how the technology is being used to speed up response calls to 911 calls. And it's a four-person race for mayor in National City. We'll examine the candidates and their priorities. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Mayor Kevin Faulconer is backing a plan that would give consumers more options when it comes to energy sources and prices. KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar joins us now from downtown with more. Priya?
Ebony, as you can see, members of the Community Choice Alliance are gathering behind me to celebrate Mayor Faulconer's announcement. Community Choice Aggregation, or CCA, refers to that alternative energy program that would allow the city to take over energy purchasing and price setting from SDG&E. Proponents of the plan say that it would help San Diego reach its goal of having 100% renewable energy by 2035 as it's set in its climate action plan. Let's take a listen to what Mayor Faulconer had to say about it a little earlier today.
This is what I've been saying for years about our climate action plan. We can leave a cleaner city for the next generation and create economic benefits for our region. The two are not mutually exclusive.
If the Community Choice Program is put in place, SDG&E would continue to take care of the energy delivery, maintenance, and billing. Now, customers could opt out and let the utility company continue to decide where they get their power. Proponents of the program say it will allow more competition in the energy market, which could potentially push rates down. SDG&E's parent company has been fighting this plan. They say that it could put taxpayers at risk, and there's no evidence that this would actually help San Diego meet its renewable energy goals. City Council is expected to vote yes on this program by the end of the year. More than 100 cities in California have passed CCA, but San Diego would be the largest. Reporting from City Hall, Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
Thanks, Priya. The San Diego County Water Authority is offering to compromise with the region's largest water wholesaler in an effort to end years of legal feuding. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has details.
Local water officials have fought for nearly a decade with the Metropolitan Water District. The dispute has often left the two agencies fighting expensive legal battles and publicly insulting each other. San Diego County Water Authority Chair Jim Medaffer says it's time to end that, and he's offering the Metropolitan Water District an agreement to end pending legal actions.
End the litigation, end the fights. Nobody likes to see government agencies fighting with each other. And unfortunately, that's been the case for the last 8 years between San Diego and the Los Angeles-based water district.
The local water board sent a proposal to make peace in a letter delivered to the Los Angeles Water Agency. Medaffer is hopeful an agreement on water transfer fees can be reached within weeks. The Metropolitan Water District has received the letter, and they say they are reviewing it. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
As the federal government looks to deploy more troops along the border, the California National Guard has been there since April. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says they're quietly performing mundane duties without much fanfare.
Because we were able to get some additional National Guard soldiers to perform the work, we gladly accepted them. And
Border Patrol spokesman Bill Rogers says the guardsmen have been performing mundane tasks like changing oil and repairing vehicles. They've been acting as dispatchers. We toured the Chula Vista station, which overlooks the Mexican border. In April, Governor Brown agreed to send 400 guardsmen to support the Trump administration's original call to send troops to the border. The state says they're not supposed to enforce immigration law, but it's hard to stay out of immigration enforcement when you're working with the Border Patrol. Guardsmen are monitoring cameras and informing agents when people cross. They're monitoring the border right now.
Right, so we don't control what comes across the border, right? It is the border. This side is the United States, that side is Mexico. We don't know what is going to be coming over the border at any given moment.
There's also an area to detain suspects at the Chula Vista station, but it's not supposed to be directly guarded by troops from California. Border Patrol says they're using nearly all the 400 troops promised by California. They're authorized to stay through March. This is the first chance we've gotten to see the Guardsmen in action since April. As you can see from the piece, there were some ground rules. The California National Guard wouldn't allow us to film their faces or show their name tags. We reached out to the Guard to ask why, and they didn't respond. It's fair to say that the Trump administration's policies on immigration have not been popular in California. This was yesterday, before it was announced that Homeland Security was requesting 800 troops to be at the border by next week, ahead of a migrant caravan which is slowly crossing Mexico. I can say, at the time, the Border Patrol in San Diego wasn't taking any dramatic steps to prepare. They weren't canceling vacations or requesting additional help from California, at least at the local level. We also know that so far, only California Guardsmen have been in the state as part of Operation Guardian Support. No outside Guardsmen have been in California. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Joe Biden and Robert De Niro join the list of targets sent explosive devices. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Point Loma Nazarene University canceled classes today due to an unspecified threat. The university says it acted out of an abundance of caution after being alerted by the FBI. The main campus in Point Loma, along with smaller locations in Mission Valley, Liberty Station, and Bakersfield, were all closed for the day. Point Loma Nazarene University provided a few details, but said in a statement that the threat does not involve an active shooter. A bird's eye view will help law enforcement in South Bay. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman shows us the new drone program being used by Chula Vista Police.
Chula Vista Police are using a new type of first responder, drones. Part of a pilot program with the FAA, Chula Vista PD will start sending out the drones for 911 calls.
These drones can go search in areas that we would not be able to cover. They can have a vantage point from above up to 400 feet, and they can look down and see things that we would never see.
Normally, it takes Chula Vista Police up to 6 minutes to respond to calls. They say a drone can do it in less than 2 minutes.
Drones as first responders is not a replacement for officers. It's an enhancement.
Right now, drones launch from the Chula Vista Police downtown station. Under the pilot program, the FAA is limiting the drones to a 1-mile radius from the police station.
Once that technology is proven to a certain point, we can start looking at what's called beyond visual line of sight. And that's when they can go further from the main station, or they could launch from a remote location.
Even though the drones can only fly a mile out, digital zoom adds another mile of coverage. The zoom is so good, police say they have used it to identify license plates.
We have 11 drone operators. Right now, they're all sworn officers that are working outside of their normal duties. They all have to be certified pilots. They have to go through a training for that.
Chula Vista PD hopes to have civilians operating the drones in the near future. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Tonight, our election coverage focuses on National City. Residents there are about to elect their first new mayor in 12 years. KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar spoke with the 4 candidates hoping to replace Ron Morrison.
The 4 candidates are City Councilwoman Alejandra Sotelo Solis, City Treasurer Mitch Beecham, Loan Officer and Real Estate Agent Daniel Perez, and Chairman of the National City Planning Commission, Ditas Yamani,
to keep our city safe,
who's focusing on affordable housing, public safety, and job growth in her campaign.
We wanted to invite investors and businesses so our residents and our people in National City can find their jobs and can grow here in National City and reinvest into our community.
Yamani immigrated from the Philippines as a child.
Hi, good afternoon.
And has been a business owner and resident in National City for over 2 decades.
We have good executive staff. We have good employees of National City because I work with them as a resident and as a business owner. But you need to have that strong leadership that will make them execute, the directions that you have to give.
It's really opening my eyes to what's going on in this city.
Mitch Beecham currently serves as National City's treasurer, so it makes sense that balancing the city's budget is one of his top priorities.
We have a fiscal deficit of $6 million, and the council just doesn't seem to get it. But as a treasurer, I don't have the ability to line out items in a budget. So on the council, I think I'll have more involvement with the way the budget is put together.
Beecham has served on the council before and says reducing traffic congestion and addressing the growing homeless population are also major concerns.
It's the oldest trolley car in San Diego.
He's a self-professed National City history buff and member of the San Diego Electric Railway Association, the oldest transcontinental railway depot in the United States.
My family came here in 1890, so I'm a part of the history of that. So the history of National City is something I'm very concerned about, and how we preserve those historic assets, because you cannot replace them.
It's going to go the wrong direction. We're not going to continue progress.
Daniel Perez is a loan officer and real estate agent. He says his political aspirations came from simply being a concerned resident.
I'm a concerned resident just like my neighbors, and I'm approaching it like that, just like that. I want to be a voice for them to make sure they feel and they know that I have their back.
Perez started attending city council meetings after getting frustrated with the traffic congestion in his neighborhood. He says his background in corporate finance will help him fix the city's deficit. If elected, he also hopes to make National City more business-friendly.
People in National City don't go outside of National City to hang out. You know, they're currently going to Chula Vista downtown. Our location is prime. We're smack dab in the middle. We should have all those people coming to our city.
We need new energy on there.
Alejandra Sotelo Solis was born and raised in National City and has been on the council for 10 years. She's hoping to give up the final 2 years of her city council term to be mayor.
When you're the mayor, you have the ability to have that megaphone and really amplify it amongst your colleagues countywide. And I think fact of the matter is we've never had a female Latina in that position. One with a predominantly Latino community, I think is going to make a difference.
She says her top priorities for National City include safe neighborhoods, economic development, and an improved quality of life.
We want you to be able to afford either an apartment, a condo, or a single-family home in National City. And it's really thinking beyond just, oh, we are only an affordable housing community, but thinking we are making housing affordable for all.
Solis and fellow Councilwoman Mona Rios have consistently voted against many of Mayor Ron Morrison's positions.
They keep wanting to turn everything over to their friends. I'm going, no, we're not going to do that. And so, you know, that's kind of the battle going on. Where do we envision our city going?
Whoever wins the mayor's race may have to work with Morrison. He's running for city council. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
More than 80% of renters in California pay more than 30% of their income on housing. KPBS reporter Taryn Minto introduces us to a measure that aims to ease the burden in National City.
Measure W would implement rent control in National City and cap annual increases at 5%. It would also create a rent control board funded by landlord fees and protect tenants from eviction except in specific situations. Rafael Bautista of San Diego Tenants United says the measure is necessary to protect rent-burdened tenants, but still allows landlords to earn money off their properties.
Measure W allows them to make maximum 5% annual increased profits a year. This is increased revenue. This is not already profits. This is increased revenue.
San Diego County Apartment Association spokeswoman Molly Kirkland says the regulations would discourage investment in rental housing.
You know, half of the housing stock in our region is at least 30 years old, and so it needs upgrades. They're going to need new roofs. They're, you know, going to need new countertops and cabinets. Everything that, you know, degrades over time, and unfortunately that costs money.
Landlords could ask the rent board for additional rent increases to cover things like changes in their property taxes, maintenance costs, or capital improvements. But Kirkland notes 3 out of the 5 board seats would be reserved for tenants. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
We're following the money this election season with iNews Source reporter Jill Castellano. Earlier today, we spoke about Prop 10, which deals with rent control, and the push to repeal the gas tax with Prop 6. Jill, welcome. So jumping right in, let's talk about Prop 6. What are the arguments for and against the proposition that would repeal the gas tax increase?
Well, Prop 6 is a measure that's trying to repeal the 12-cent gas tax increase that was passed last year. It started right here in San Diego with Carl DeMaio and his radio show. That campaign is saying this tax adds an extra $700 plus of a burden on working families every year, and they can't afford to pay that, and it's not good for them, and so they shouldn't. On the other side, the people who support the gas tax say, actually, we really need this money for our roads, for our infrastructure. We've already funded $5 billion worth of infrastructure projects around the whole state using this money. And $1 billion of that money is coming here to San Diego. In the long run, they say that's actually better for working families.
So there's a campaign for and against Prop 6. How much money do each of these campaigns have, and where is it coming from?
The money supporting Prop 6, that's about $5 million. That's more of a grassroots effort, small donors from all around the state donating money, though they are getting help from some big candidates running for office who are Republicans, like John Cox, the Republican governor candidate, who's based out of Rancho Santa Fe here in San Diego County. On the other side, the people supporting the people who are opposing the repeal effort have raised $32 million. So they have way more money than the supporters have of this campaign. And that money is coming from a lot of large donors, a lot of labor unions, construction companies, groups that think this is going to add jobs and that may benefit and get some of those jobs.
So moving on to Proposition 10, this would enable local governments to enact rent control. What more can you tell us about this proposition?
Right, so this does not really enact rent control measures, but it does give local jurisdictions the ability to do that by repealing a law called the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act.
So talk to me about the campaign for Prop 10 and the funding for this campaign. How much money has this campaign raised?
So the Yes campaign, the Yes on Prop 10 campaign, has about $20 million. And what they're saying is that this rent control is really important for people so they don't get displaced from their homes, they don't have to move around so much, and they don't end up homeless. And so that's why they put this on the ballot. But on the other side, there's a lot more money that is trying to oppose this Prop 10. They have about $57 million. And what they're saying is that Prop 10 is actually a disincentive to build more homes. Home builders don't want to build in a market with rent control because they're not going to make as much money, and that could lead to less housing affordability in our market overall. So it kind of depends what your take on it is, but in both cases of Prop 10 and Prop 6, the groups supporting the repeal have less money than the groups opposing it.
Very interesting. Jill Castellano, iNews Source reporter, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You can prepare for the election with the KPBS Voter Guide. We have a link right on our homepage. It's a partnership with Voters Edge California. You'll find information on all of the races and candidates right now at kpbs.org. On November 4th, Americans will fall back, but a couple of days later, Californians will decide whether to begin the process of ending daylight savings time. Capitol Public Radio's Sammy Cayola explains how it works in Arizona.
Let's be clear. Prop 7 doesn't actually abolish daylight saving. It repeals the 1949 rule that established the practice in California. This would allow the legislature to look at other options, like keeping daylight saving year-round. I asked Calvin Schermerhorn at Arizona State University how life without clock changes works over there. He says in the desert, longer days just mean more AC. Farmers don't like it either.
An extra hour of daylight in the evening doesn't necessarily help things. If you've got an extra hour of darkness in the morning when, we got to go out and gather crops.
But there are some challenges with not making the switch, like for companies trying to do business in other time zones.
I guess it's been going fine, but the problem is that for half the year, right, we have to readjust or tell people, well, actually, we are still on Mountain Standard Time, which means for all intents and purposes, that's Pacific Daylight Time.
He says things could shift if California abolishes the practice.
Then there's kind of maybe an unbroken chain between Hawaii, which does not participate, and Arizona, which does not participate. California may be a tipping point for others, at least in the West.
Even if Prop 7 passes and the governor signs a bill, the change requires Congress's approval. In Sacramento, I'm Sammy Kayola.
As we continue through tonight, it's going to be a quiet pattern. To the north is where they're looking at wet weather, but here in Southern California, as you see on our satellite and radar, not much activity, and our onshore flow is pretty light at this time. So we could see some clouds out towards San Diego, Oceanside, as well as Borrego Springs, remaining calm out there with a low of 61. Cooling down to 48 in Mount Laguna. As we head in once again to tonight, we're not going to be looking at too much in the way of cloud cover. Some passing clouds likely, but overall mainly clear with a low of 61 here in San Diego. As for your Friday, ready for the weekend, it's going to feel warmer, and offshore flow is going to set up as we have high pressure out towards our east there. That's going to promote warmer air in towards Southern California, Vegas, in towards Fresno and Reno, and that's going to keep things rain-free for tomorrow. Our highs are going to be in the upper 70s for Oceanside. We'll be topping off at 94 in Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna topping off at 71, and looking at, once again, a dry forecast. Into this weekend will still remain pretty dry and warm across much of Southern California. Out towards the east, if you have any travel plans, is where we'll be dealing with a dip in the jet stream. Disturbances here going to be pressing its way into the east. We're talking rain and even some snow out towards upstate New York and New England. But here at home, we're on the dry side of things. Our forecast will change slightly in terms of the heat. In fact, I'll be noticing some cooler weather into your extended forecast. So in the upper 70s for the coast Friday and Saturday, then headed back into the mid to low 70s for the early week. And moving into the inland areas, we'll also see that cool down on your Tuesday. Right now in the upper 80s for this weekend. Then by Tuesday, only topping off at 77 and feeling a cool breeze. We'll be in the 60s in the mountain for the early week forecast, but feeling amazing for Saturday and Sunday in the lower 70s, looking at plenty of sunshine. And as we continue in towards the deserts, we'll also feel that cool down, starting in the 90s for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, then into the 80s for early week. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Dajia Swad. Back to you.
Halloween is coming up, and that means this weekend will be filled with events around San Diego. KPBS Arts editor Nina Guerin has a preview to get you in the spirit.
Halloween is all about stepping out of your comfort zone. And what better way to do that than the Rocky Horror Show live at the OB Playhouse. Based on the cult movie from 1975, the story follows Brad and Janet, newlyweds who get stranded in front of a mansion. The house belongs to Dr. Frankenfurter, a cross-dressing scientist with a collection of odd friends. Like the film, the live version is for adults only, but it does welcome audience participation and props, including squirt guns and flashlights. Or bring $5 and buy a prop kit at the theater. There's a special Halloween performance complete with costume contests, prizes, and other shenanigans. Rocky Horror isn't family friendly, but San Diego Junior Theater has a show for all ages that's spooky, but not too scary. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is a musical that puts a modern spin on Washington Irving's classic story of the Headless Horseman.
Sleepy Hollow, where the shadows follow you around.
The show begins in present-day Halloween, when a group of kids gets transported to 18th century New York. The town is preparing for the arrival of the Headless Horseman, and the kids have to figure out how to get home. Friday night show is costume night, so dress up in your best Halloween outfit and enjoy the show. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary. That's the opening to Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, which you can hear along with other stories at Poe Fest.
While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tap.
Presented by Write Out Loud, Poe's bone-chilling stories like The Raven and A Dream Within a Dream will be read by professional actors. The tales are told by candlelight in a historic Old Town chapel, so you truly get in the mood, as if you're really in 1800s New England. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
Now here's a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. The health of our oceans and the impact on fishing. A new state report details the extent of acidification in the waters off our coast. And after years of being represented by a Republican, 2 Democrats are running for an open assembly seat in Oceanside. We'll learn more about the candidates on Midday Edition. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.